What are your crimes, Mark? Yes, what are your crimes, Mark? You beat your wife, you kick a pup. We'll find your crimes and rake it up. Did you laugh at Hubbard? That's not nice, and now you'll have to pay your price. So what are your crimes, Mark? What have you done? Oh, it's too late now. Fair game's begun.
Hello and welcome back to the intergalactic headquarters of Xenu TV, broadcasting throughout this entire sector of the galaxy and concentrating especially here on good old TGAC. And I've been digging around, and I've got some great stuff from the archives that I'll be telling you about and showing you, and we're going to listen. Hello, Matthew. You're the first one here. Nice to see you. Matthew Pickstock. Good morning. So where are you located? Over in London? I hope. That's where I'd be. AT Chick, yay, wise bread. Okay. I take it. It's Kelly saying hi. Okay. Doop, 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 doop. Oh, that's what you meant. Wise beard man. Oh, I get it now. All right, Matthew, where are you located? Unless it's top secret and you don't want Osa to know. Lupita, hi. New Zealand. How exciting. Well, I'm glad that you at the crack of dawn came to see what we've got going here at Xenu TV. If it is the crack of dawn, you might be like me and wake up the crack of noon. Canada, how about that? Hey, Janie. AT Chick is in Thailand now? What? That's exciting. Cool, Jane. Hello back to you. Oh, yes, watching in the future. That's terribly exciting that you get to live in the future there. And Rhonda in Pittsburgh. Is that a little doggy? I think so. My first thought was a little kitty, but it looks like a doggy. It's tiny, though. Alberta. Jenny, welcome. So we got folks piling in here. Well, that's nice to see. I didn't give any heads up at all. I just said, hey, let's turn this sucker on. But I do have something that I think will be fun tonight. For months and months and months and months, I have been searching for these radio shows that I used to have on my website, Xenu TV. And that website disappeared. And I knew I had a CD filled with the files from it. And I've been digging around everywhere, but I finally found it over the weekend. So I'm going to start rolling out some really great radio shows, starting with this first one, which is probably the most classic of them all. It's from a Los Angeles station, KFI. And it's a call-in radio show with Priscilla Coates from the Cult Awareness Network before Scientology destroyed it and took it over. And Priscilla is a nice woman. I got to know her when I was living in LA. And also, she's up against Heber Jentzsch, being his most Heber Jentzschery. He goes nuts in this broadcast. Oh, and it's a delight. The guy can't keep his buttons in. He just really thinks this is a good look for him to be frantically accusing people of being Nazis and on drugs, because that's what we're going to encounter tonight. And Also on the show, Dennis Erlich. And Dennis Erlich was the person who really sets off Heber in the last half of the show, because Dennis has got, he's gunning for bear. And Heber does not want anything that Dennis says to be heard. So there's a lot of talking over people, and the poor woman who's the host of the show, she's trying frantically to keep everybody in line. She does a good job, actually, but it's just astonishing how nuts Heber is happy to present himself as. If you could turn that into a sentence for me, I appreciate that. It's too much work for me. You got snow. You have snow today? Where's that snow? Oh, Kelly, where are you located? Oof. All right. Well, unimportant. Just outside of Victoria, BC. Aha. Very nice. I think you probably mentioned that to me before. Just forgot. So I have this tiny little piece of video that shows you what I've been up to for the last several days, digging around all these boxes that are filled with videotapes. Essentially, almost everything in there is a VHS tape from the US or from overseas. So I've got 2 VCRs here, one that plays broadcasts from around the world, so I can capture those and convert them. And I just thought I'd show you a little bit of the VHS workstation right here. So you've got 2 VCRs, and on top of some of the things I've been working. Yep, there's all the tape for the Clearwater City Commission hearing. There's 8 tapes. Number 7 is in there right now. Or was taking it. So I have recaptured everything from the hearings, and I'm going to see if I can improve the picture at least a little bit. And it's a daunting task, weeks worth of testimony. But the most annoying part of capturing all the video again, that's accomplished now. So now I can start working with it and see if there's anything I can do, but I can definitely improve the sound of it. So I thought I might as well start from scratch rather than taking the video file that's up there online right now, downloading that, changing the audio on that, and re-upping that, because that just makes the video another generation crappier. So starting from the beginning. And I've got dozens and dozens and dozens of radio shows that we'll be rolling out. This is my favorite. Swedish Lena, lots of love from Australia. Back at ya. I'd love to visit Australia. Witness listening in, Mark. Hope you're well. I am. I'm a little tired, so I'm worried my voice is going to go. And I'm just unabashedly having the official drink of Xenu TV right by my side, so I can kind of refresh myself. Oh, that's good. So we have a choice here. Hello to you, Kim from Virginia Beach. We can listen to this entire radio broadcast from the beginning. The first half of it is Heber and Priscilla Coates. And it's interesting. Don't get me wrong. It's interesting. But the fireworks come in the second half. So if you'd like, we can start when Dennis is introduced. And then when I publish the radio show video after we're off here, you can listen to the beginning of it. I'll leave it up to you. What do you folks prefer? You want to start from the beginning or pick up where Dennis pops in? Looking at this, great job, Jeff. I'm trying to see who, Jeff. Where's Jeff? Is it Jeff Jacobson or is there another Jeff here? All right. Well, I second it. Whoever it is, great job, Jeff. Right, beginning, whole shebang, beginning. All right. Seems like we have a consensus here. Beginning, whole shebang, beginning. You got it. And Michael's suggesting a sample. Okay, I'll start it from the beginning, and we'll see if you folks want to carry on. I think you will. I mean, it's an interesting show. It's well done. So let me bring it up here.
Us after the news at 10 o'clock, and we will continue.
Well, let me pull this back to the beginning of the show. Here we go.
Welcome. Thank you very much to the month of May. It's too hot for me, but hey, what can you do? With me in studio are some very interesting people tonight. We are going to talk about the Church of Scientology. And I'm pleased to have with me in studio Heber Jentzsch, who is the president of the Church of Scientology International. Also with me, Priscilla Coates of the Cult Awareness Network. And for the next 2 hours, we will be talking about Scientology, its tenets, its followers, its practices, and why it is so controversial. And I guess that's really my first question. I know that you're not settled down over there yet, Heber. You're still shuffling papers. But I want to ask you, what is Scientology?
Yes, Scientology is the road to total freedom. It is a church which has about 8 million members internationally. We have 700 organizations. And Scientology, what is Scientology? Well, Scientology believes that you are a spiritual being. It believes that you are basically good. Man is basically good. He may act badly, but man is basically good. And Scientology believes that an individual can get better. That with the principles of Scientology, that he can change his life, and he can change it for the better. And I think the best thing to try to describe Scientology is to say, look,
Before.
Read a book yourself, make up your own mind. It isn't what I say to you or what someone else is going to say to you. It's you, the individual, who makes up your own mind, because you, as an individual, are uniquely you. And Scientology also helps people increase their communication and increases their ability to understand. Well, for me, it's like, who am I? Why am I here? Who are you? What's this all about?
These are old questions, so they've ever been answered.
And that's why I'm in Scientology, because for the first time, I was able to answer those questions for myself.
And how long has Scientology been around? How long have has it been a practicing church?
Well, Scientology as a church was established in 1954 when a number of people came to Mr. Hubbard and they said, you know, Mr. Hubbard, you're dealing with the human spirit. And that is a religious, philosophical activity. It isn't anything else, because nobody else really deals with the human spirit except religion, and that's been the tradition on this planet since its existence. And so they established a church in 1954. And Scientology as a religion has practiced since 1954, as a subject since 1950.
And why is it so controversial?
Because it's effective. You know, governments don't fight dying groups. They only fight groups that grow and are capable and are expanding. If you look out throughout history, Scientology has had controversy because in 1950, it was the first group to come out and decry the brutalities of psychiatry. That was electric shock, lobotomies, psychosurgery, And those brutal, brutal treatments, which were in extant in 1950, it was way ahead of its time by doing that in 1950. And so I would say, if anything, there is a turf problem where psychiatry somehow wants to destroy any religious capability and to take over the field of religion because they feel it's a competitor. We're not a competitor to psychiatry. We're not even interested in their line of country. But that's been the controversy, if we were to bring it down to who was fighting that particular issue. And we've grown and grown and grown and grown from 1950 until international in scope, located in 33 countries. Scientology grows because it's effective.
And I want to ask you, Priscilla Coates, Coast Awareness Network, where did you become involved in Scientology? At what point and why?
Oh, she's not a Scientologist.
I understand that, but why did you become involved in the Scientology effort from your own point of view?
I guess because I moved here. But way back in the early 80s, I was first accosted by Scientology when I was an individual trying to educate the New York State legislature about what destructive groups do to people and how they interrupt their lives, how people are harmed by groups which recruit deceptively, gain their members by the use of thought reform or mind control techniques, and are engaged in illegal and unethical activities. Those are the groups that concern us, and we get a lot of complaints about a lot of groups. We get a lot of complaints about Scientology.
So what do you mean when you say unethical recruiting practices and mind control? Is that what you said?
Yes. With that unethical or deceptive recruiting practices, the individual meeting the group is not informed what the group is, what their commitment will be, what things they will have to do to become a member of the group. Most organizations, if you meet them for the first time, I don't know about you, but I've had PTA and school board and associations like that, tell you more than you want to know about the organization. There is no hidden agenda. There is no hidden part of the organization. With a destructive group, you have a hidden agenda, you have a hidden doctrine, you have all kinds of hidden and different things like that in a closed system.
And you allege that Scientology is hidden.
Yeah.
From the general public, they don't put the basic information.
Yes, one has to pay a great deal of money to get to know the teachings of the Church of Scientology. And it takes many, many years.
Let me ask a question. Have you ever read
Wait a minute, Heber. Just hold on for a moment. So Priscilla, I got to meet when I first started looking into Scientology way back in -- I met Dennis Erlich, who we're going to hear from in the second half of this show. Dennis then introduced me to Priscilla, took me over to her place where every Sunday afternoon she had a little self-help group with folks from various different cults, not just Scientology. So I got to know Priscilla, and I appreciated all the stuff that she has done over the decades to help folks try to recover from being in Scientology. And now we're going to get back to the question for Heber. And I forgot what it was.
Full book of L. Ron Hubbard's?
Yes, I have.
How much did it cost you?
I borrowed the book. It didn't cost me a cent, Heber, but it was unreadable. It was unreadable.
No,
the words don't go together. They don't flow together. It's not the English language.
Priscilla? Well, that's interesting. He sold 94 million copies, and
Well,
some
no,
people
you guys bought
can't read.
yourselves.
Oh, you mean we went out and bought 94 million copies? I mean, I'd have to spend my whole life doing that, Priscilla. That's absolutely ridiculous. The
Well,
point
you
is
put
that-
in big orders.
Wait a minute. Let me just deal with one thing. You're talking, it's interesting. She talks about organizations. The PTA is not a religious organization.
We don't concern ourselves with
Let's get the ground rules set here, okay? I ask the questions, you respond. If you have something you want to say, I invite you to talk.
Yeah.
Heber.
The point is, Priscilla, that you've very carefully and assiduously chosen words which would completely exclude the religiosity of the church. My contention with you is that your organization has kidnapped Baptists. The St. Petersburg Times carried that. You've kidnapped Baptists and called them a cult. Ted Patrick calls the Mormons a cult, the biggest one in the world. And, you know, if you want to take a look, the fact that Patrick has captured Catholics and deprogrammed them as well, where does it stop? Talk about the hidden agenda. $50,000 to kidnap a person, to brutalize them in a very terroristic type of situation and brutalize their religious beliefs, where they come out and they don't believe anything. And if you've seen the tape I did on deprogramming, which was done by a number of other people, including members of the National Council of Churches, you can see where this one family said it cost them $25,000 and it destroyed their lives completely.
Heber, what you're saying, what you're saying is that the Cult Awareness Network, abducts people from the church?
Oh, a number of churches, and they have abducted people from, in fact, Mr. Patrick, I have all the documents here, so don't sigh so terribly bad, Priscilla.
Priscilla, are these allegations true?
Mr. Patrick is not part of the Cult Awareness Network. Mr. Patrick is the founder of the process called deprogramming. He initiated that word, but he is not part of the Cult Awareness Network. Some of us in the Cult Awareness Network do know them. I see you going up with your hand, Heber. Just let me finish. But we have in the United States freedom of association. And if we can associate it freely with Mr. Patrick as with anyone else, there is nothing against the law in that.
So the Patrick, his first name, please? Ted Patrick. Has he abducted people and tried to deprogram them from Scientology?
Yes. Oh, I don't know about Scientology.
Well, you know,
I simply don't know.
Do you condone
deprogramming is not kidnapping. Deprogramming is talking to a person and explaining to them how the organization really works. Most members of destructive groups are that in the dark. They do not know how their group works. If they have the opportunity to learn about their group, then they have the opportunity to make an informed choice, stay with the group or leave.
How is this request brought to you? How does one go about, why do you decide to snatch people from Scientology?
I don't decide to snatch anyone, and neither does the Cult Awareness Network.
Okay, how does that
Over the period of years, legal guardianships have become very difficult, if not impossible, to obtain. And families who feared for the mental health or physical health of people have taken the law into their own hands and held people against their will to have them learn about their organization. We do not condone it. We do not support it. We do not participate in it.
It's criminal.
But it does happen.
It's criminal. Do you agree it's criminal? Priscilla?
I would not go that far. I know that families do this because they care, and they care deeply.
I have a Court of Common Pleas of Hamilton County here talking about Theodore Patrick Roosevelt's kidnapping of this young lady.
Ted Patrick is not part of the Cult Awareness Organization.
Ted Patrick has attended all of your conferences, and the Cult Awareness Network, CFF, was founded by Ted Patrick, and I have the corporation papers indicating that CFF then became the Cult Awareness Network. But let me just finish this point here. This young lady was raped by Mr. Ted Patrick. And if you want to call that deprogramming, I call it rape. And I think that that kind of activity is absolutely despicable. Ted Patrick was also sent out from Canada. Well, you've got Steve Hassan here on your program, and Steve Hassan admits that he grabs people and kidnaps them.
No, he does not.
All right, hold on. Let's continue this conversation. Heber, Jentzsch, you'll all have an opportunity to talk. Let's take a break. This is KFI AM 640, more stimulating talk radio. Jane Norris with you. We will be back. And I see the lines are jammed.
Oop, okay. I appreciate Swedish that Mitch wants to get a hold of me. We've exchanged emails, and we will talk. We've got each other's phone numbers, so I'll take care of that. And if you see me scrolling through my phone here, I'm trying to think of the name of a film that I thought was really interesting that is centered around a deprogrammer. And as soon as I find out, I'll let you know. Oops. Here we go.
Already, you obviously have a lot to say, and you'll get your chance too. It's 9:17. This is KFI. Jane Norris with you on KFI AM 640. We are talking with Heber Jentzsch, president of the Church of Scientology International, and Priscilla Coates of the Cult Awareness Network about Scientology. And your telephone calls are also welcome, although the lines are quite full right now. I encourage you to call 1-800-553-4640 is the telephone number. Locally from area codes 213 or 818, the number is 5201-KFI. Let me continue. You were both talking about abductions and involvement in the church, but I'd like to go in depth a little bit more into Scientology. And I want to ask, do you have tax-exempt status? Are you a church in the eyes of the Internal Revenue Service?
I have the documents in case Priscilla has a problem with that, where the Internal Revenue Service has fully recognized the Church of Scientology and published that quite extensively. In fact, a number of churches in the United States do have full tax-exempt status. And the Supreme Court of the land has also declared that Scientology is a religion. The courts in many of the countries have declared Scientology a religion. In fact, I think the High Court of Australia, which was probably a very decisive statement through all the Commonwealth countries, said Scientology irresistibly is a religion. So it's established, it is recognized. In fact, they're quite clear in their language that the recognition of the spirit, there were 4 particular points. She's going to say what a cult is, but let me say what the courts have decided is a religion. Number 1, it believes in a supreme being, which Scientology does. Number 2, it believes in an ethical community where the people share a morality, which they concluded Scientology does. Number 3, that it has a written liturgy which describes its religion, which is studied by the religion, which Scientology does. And number 4 is a religion which is continuing in the community as such. Those 4 elements which describe Scientology have been declared in the highest court of the land in Australia and throughout the Commonwealth, and it is recognized in the United States. Not that that is necessary, because under the Constitution of this country, every religion under the First Amendment has a right to exist, not just Scientology. And I would defend to the death any other religion's right to exist rather than try to take that right away.
Well, the reason why I ask is because in my visit the other day to the L. Ron Hubbard exhibit on Hollywood Boulevard, I began to see that Scientology is more than just a religion. There are tenets for how to build your business and become successful, and managerial techniques. As a taxpayer, I would have a problem paying or allowing tax exemptions for that kind of teaching to go on. Why should I pay for your members to become successful in life?
Well, because you don't, and make that very clear that the World International Scientology Enterprises Organization, which does use management technology and is composed of Scientologists, are people who are tax-paying people and who study under a different, they study business management technology completely separate from the Church of Scientology. But we also train our own people to run churches, just as the Methodists do, just as the Episcopalians do, except I would say that Scientology, in teaching people how to run and manage churches, has a far greater technology on it. I mean, I have friends who are Methodists. I have friends in the National Council of Churches who do have training for their people, and they have tax-exempt status for their people to learn to manage the churches.
But different than just to manage churches.
No, but if a person is going to apply it to a business, then he's going to pay taxes on that because that's a business expense. We don't ask the government to give us anything. And in fact, we are not, as other churches, some churches in other countries do receive money from the country for their existence. We don't. The church makes its money by people donating to it because they find it valuable. In fact, the Supreme Court said, well, hey, you know, here's a church that people get something for it. As a friend of mine who is an evangelical minister said to me, you know, he says, people don't know whether they get rewarded or not in my religion until they die, and then we don't know whether they get it then. But in Scientology, you know that you're getting an understanding and you get something while you're alive. I think that's a difference.
Okay, Priscilla, the tax-exempt status, do you have different information?
Well, Heber, as you noticed, or maybe you didn't, stop talking about tax-exempt status and started talking about whether Scientology was or was not a religion. No one in this country is challenging whether Scientology is or is not a religion. Anything in the United States can be and is a religion. One's belief system is extraordinarily private, and it is very well protected by the Constitution.
We agree.
However, the Church of Scientology went all the way to the Supreme Court in Hernandez versus the United States government versus Hernandez. And the Supreme Court did say that the donations, so-called, to Scientology are not tax exempt. They were saying it's just like a tithing or a pew fee. Well, it is not. The fees are very, very great and very, very high. The Church of Scientology has filed with the IRS under a new organization called the Church of Spiritual Technology to become tax exempt, because Scientology is not. And in this, the government has said, all your papers are very interesting, and you keep saying you're a totally new corporation. But my gosh, guys, they're all the same names. You're doing all the same things. You won't give us the information. You won't cooperate. You do have another appeal, but you are not tax exempt, and that's been going on since 1982.
Heber.
Well, I'm pausing this to tell you about Heber's showbiz connections. He was not a cowboy actor, but he apparently liked musicals and did some stage musicals from what I can recall. But he was in the movie Paint Your Wagon with Clint Eastwood. I haven't found him in the film. I don't know if he's just an extra. He doesn't have a major part in it, but that's the one credit that I always see for Heber. And now let's get back to the show.
I'm out. You know, Priscilla, you have a problem in credibility, which, you quoted the Church of Scientology Trust, which is one corporation. There are 700 organizations of Scientology internationally. Now, I have just handed the interviewer copies of IRS accreditations for tax-exempt status for a number of churches, and you just avoided that issue completely. Those churches are fully recognized by the Internal Revenue Service having tax-exempt status. The Hernandez decision, which you brought up, did not say that the Church of Scientology or the churches of Scientology were not tax-exempt. They did not say that, and you know that very well. I've read that thing extensively. What it did establish, though, is, and very clearly stated, that if the Internal Revenue Service is to do any kind of tax lien or a tax on donations, that they must, under the Constitution, apply it equally across the way to all religions. In other words, selective prosecution of Scientology is not constitutional, and that's very clear in the decision if you read Scalia and if you also read the rest of the decision. So that has nothing to do with the churches. The churches are recognized as religious bodies, and a number of our churches do have tax-exempt status, and that's the way it is. Live with it, Priscilla. You have tax-exempt status.
All right, hold on. Look,
do you not?
They are continuing to try to find ways to get tax-exempt status. There is no,
does every
has
church.
been no singling out.
As does every church.
Hold on. There has been no singling out. They've been treated fairly. The IRS and every government agency has bent over backwards for them. The Church of Spiritual Technology is currently building tunnels, 3 to be exact, one in Las Vegas, New Mexico, one in Crestline, California, and another in Petrolia, California. They're building feet and feet of tunnels to preserve goodness knows what and for what purpose, spending millions upon millions and millions of dollars
Which aren't
on
yours.
the Church of Spiritual Technology.
well, I have no problem with Scientologists building tunnels if they want them, but I don't want to have to pay for them.
You're not paying a dime for it, and I must say that the Mormons, who have built a vast, chambers to enclose the genealogy of their people and so forth, maybe she has a problem with that, and they want to preserve their records. A number of people have done that, and it's not illegal, by the way. I think that the preservation of Scientology is a very, very valuable activity because it is priceless, not only to us, but to a lot of people. And Priscilla, you may find something wrong with that. I noticed, and I spoke with Cynthia Kisser the other day, and maybe you can confirm this. Is it not true that you guys published a letter indicating that you are working with the Internal Revenue Service in gathering information on Scientology?
I don't know. I would have no problem working with any agency that needed information. We are a public and open organization, and we answer inquiries.
Right. Well, that's good. I'm glad you brought that up because Cynthia also confirmed that. And the point was on this, which I want to make very clear. Every Jew in America, every Catholic in America, every Baptist in America who ever paid 1/100 of a cent to the U.S. Congress was ripped off by that activity. It is a violation of the First Amendment for the Internal Revenue Service to do anything against any particular religion in coordination with a group. And the Cult Awareness Network has put its 501c3 on the line in that activity. I did get a confirmation on Cynthia that happened, and I really appreciate it, because I'll tell you what, that is illegal, it's unconstitutional, and the IRS should not do it, and you shouldn't be working for them.
I want to ask,
I'm not working for them. I'm a volunteer, Heber.
I want to ask Priscilla, why do you think Scientology?
Hold that thought. So I just wanted to mention the name of that movie about deprogrammers. It's called Faults. It's from 2014. And it is actually a pretty interesting film. And from the trailer, I thought, well, this is going to be a serious film. And it is, but it's also wacky. So give it a shot if you ever stumble upon it. I bought it on iTunes, and it's out there on different services, I imagine. But well worth seeing if you're interested at all in any of this stuff. And I imagine you are. Okay, Priscilla, what's that question?
Is so dangerous.
The lives that it has ruined are immeasurable, and the pain and suffering that it's caused to individuals, to families, to siblings, to friends is just unmeasurable. It's awesome.
Do you recognize that they must have done some good for someone along the line, otherwise they wouldn't exist?
In talking with former members of all groups, Jane, we want them to balance the good and the bad. We want them to have a realistic perspective of their experiences. But the experiences in destructive groups are overwhelmingly unpleasant and very, very distasteful. We do want them to remember the good times. Whenever a group of ex-members gets together, we sit and we laugh. And we find that to be very, very helpful. Making jokes, telling funny stories, funny things. It was life, it happened, and it can be fun to talk about it and think about it. But overwhelmingly, the circumstances were very bad. Many, many, many lives have been damaged.
It's 9:30 on KFI AM 640. Heber, Jentzsch, you'll have your opportunity to respond. And you, Los Angeles, will be joining us with your telephone calls. It is 9:30. This is KFI AM 640. Jane Norris with you. Happy to be so. And we will continue our conversation on Scientology after this. With me in studio is the president of Church of Scientology International, Heber, Jentzsch. Also joining me is Priscilla Coates from the Cult Awareness Network. And we have questions. So let's go to the telephone.
Well, I had one chat.
Oh, certainly.
Respond.
Okay.
You know, in 1989, you were on the show here, and you said Ted Patrick, Priscilla, you said, is the person who invented or created or used the word first deprogramming. He has become quite flamboyant. He is a very honorable man, a person who really cares, who would literally lay his life on the line to help someone get out of a group that he felt was harmful to them. And then in his own book, Let Our Children Go, 1976, he wrote, deprogramming is the term, and it may be said to involve kidnapping at the very least, quite often assault and battery, almost invariably conspiracy to commit a crime and illegal restraint. You see, I think that the hidden agenda of the Cult Awareness Network has to be exposed in that sense, that the criminality of this organization, a number of people who've been convicted in your organization, you know, you have to indicate that. You're talking to people who have left organizations. There are 8 million people in Scientology. You are not a religious counselor.
Right, 24,000 from 1987. How did it grow so fast?
Where are you saying 24,000? That's not 24,000. There are 8 million members, and you bloody well know it. And there are 700 organizations internationally. No, she's talking about people who have joined an organization called the International Association of Scientologists, a separate organization.
I see.
And, you know, you don't know enough about us. You're talking to people who are dissidents who have left an organization. And I've talked to people who have left the Cult Awareness Network who have been absolutely, terrified by the kind of activities. If you wish to attack cults, then I think we join with you. In that 1989 radio show, you were talking about a Mexican group, Palo Mayombe, this group that was killing people and ritual killings down there. I agree with you. I think that the satanic cults who are involved in killing and so forth should be stopped. I would join you in that, but I find that we are the only ones who expose them, and that the head of that group, Hugo Spadafora, one of the key people in that particular group, by the way, was in charge of an organization called Interpol. We went after that group. We exposed that group. And, you know, I didn't find you doing anything about it. They were running drugs into this country.
Are we talking about Scientology?
No, we're talking about the fact that she says she's concerned about cults. I'm saying there are a couple of cults that we've gone after, and perhaps it might be interesting if the Cult Awareness Network was so interested they could go after those real cults that are running drugs into this country. But let me...
Priscilla, hold on, Heber. Do you believe Scientology is a cult?
I believe it's a destructive group. I prefer to use destructive group rather than cult. Cult has a different significance.
Because we take people off of drugs?
Because you cause harm in people's lives.
Taking people off of drugs is harm? How do you interpret that? What makes you an authority?
Your program, never had it. I'm not an authority on drug programs, but your program has been criticized upside down, backwards, and forwards.
All right.
It's simply the purification rundown in the e-meter. Your bet doesn't do anything.
You're both great. Let's take a telephone call. Joan is calling from don't know where. She's a former Scientologist. Joan, you're on KFI.
Hi, Dane.
Hi, Joan.
Doing a great job there.
I'm trying. Your question?
Okay, well, first of all, I'd like to let Heber know that I commend him, and my 5 children are commending him. He's doing fairly good tonight.
Well, thank you.
You're sure welcome. You know, I was in Scientology for 20 years, and no longer in Scientology. And, boy, I'd sure love to get back into Scientology, but I can't find a way.
What does that mean?
Well, basically, it means that, whereas I don't disagree with anything that Heber said so far on what Scientology is doing for against destructive groups that are extant today, there are certain facets of Scientology that are destructive that are not being policed by people like Heber Jeb.
What do you mean?
Well, to be specific, I was kicked out of Scientology simply because somebody didn't like me. And there was no way that I could get back in.
Were you working for the church? Were you, how were you involved?
Well, in 1989, I paid the church $45,000 and I told them everything that was going on. And the day that I arrived to receive my services, I was told I was no longer a member.
And did you get a refund?
No, I didn't.
Heber, do people get removed from the church? How does that work?
Well, Miss Mangello, the way that usually happens is that people generally, you know...
Excuse me, did I give you my last name?
No, you didn't.
Well, I recognize it. I've heard your voice. So anyway, I mean, is it all right if I recognize somebody's voice? Is there a problem with that? Priscilla,
An invasion of her privacy.
Yeah, let's stick with her first name.
She doesn't have a problem with that.
Base.
Well,
I was too. I'm flattered that you recognize me.
Well, I recognize your voice. So listen, my dear, as you know, there are specific steps which you can take, which brings you back into Scientology. The door is never closed on anybody coming back into Scientology. And you can get in touch with the International Ethics Officer, and those steps can be fulfilled. That is the way it is in Scientology. One has the right to come back in.
But why would Joan be asked to leave or no longer be welcome?
She will have many steps to do, and she will have to pay the full rate, and she really will have to grovel. She must know that she had an awful lot to do to get back into the good graces of the church. She'll have to do A to E, and they're tough.
Priscilla, you know, if you want to look at tough, look at the Catholic Church and what it has in terms of attrition and so forth. Those things last for years. Those are rather incredible.
But why Joan's removal?
Well, I believe
You know her, tell us.
Priscilla?
You know who she is, please.
Priscilla, you just try to be civil and try to be...
You're all bringing me off the point here.
And because...
Question answered.
Because Priscilla, you know, your support of psychiatry, and obviously we're in tremendous disagreement on that, but let me go back to this. There are people who disagree with our moral codes. There are people who disagree.
Heber,
I understand.
disagree with any of
Well, that's good. That's good.
to you is how...
What would you like to do? What, Joan, what would you like to do? Do you want to come back into Scientology? Well, then write me and I'll figure out how we do it. And it's very simple. Joan? Yeah, well,
Respond.
well, I'll tell you what. You write me and I will put out notice that for any letter that comes for you to look for it, and let's deal with it. Because, Priscilla makes her living off of having people who are dissidents. That's how they make a living off of it.
I'll split with you, Heber.
Yeah, well, I don't like blood money. I just think this Scientology, with over 100,000 people taken off of drugs, how many have you taken off, Priscilla? You don't have a statistic like that.
Scientology doesn't have any statistics for taking anyone
Not
off.
just I am
That is
on.
just absolutely a bald-faced lie. And there you go again, Priscilla. What have you got to win from this? What's your hidden agenda? Who funds you? Where does all your money come from? You're tax exempt. I want to know. No, I told where our money comes from. Ask her where she gets all that money. Where's that secret money come from?
My thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars come from small little donations.
Gee, I have
All over the country.
I have your 990 forms here. It's a lot more than
Get
that.
your attention here.
You are trying.
Okay, and I'm going to
listen.
do it. I want to find out, why would someone be removed from a church? Why would this woman, who obviously still believes in your tenets, why would she no longer be welcome in the Church of Scientology?
Well, there are certain requirements for a person to be in the church. And if those people feel that they cannot follow the codes of the church and do not want to follow the codes of the church, then they leave the church.
But she didn't leave of her own free will.
She wanted to stay.
And, there is always an open door, as I'm saying. In Scientology, the door is never closed. And there is just a simple formula that people can perform and do it. And I know people who've done that, Priscilla. You can keep sighing. I hope you don't have a breathing problem. But anyway, people are able to come back into Scientology. And as I said to her very clearly, if she wants to come back, she can simply write to me, and there is a formula, and she can fulfill it. And
It doesn't seem very church-like, though, to kick people out.
Well, I don't know.
I mean, the Catholic Church, you can sin all you want to, and they won't kick you out.
Oh, they've excommunicated a lot of people, my dear.
Well, they have
Yes.
excommunicated a few. I got
Quite a few thousand in recent years, as a matter of fact.
count you as a Catholic, and they'll still counsel you. I mean, they won't.
Oh, excommunication, no, in Catholic Church is rather a drastic thing. It's a horrible thing. Just no.
They'll still counsel you, and then you're still welcome. You're able to come into the church.
Right. And people are able to come into Scientology by fulfilling a certain amount of things. Excommunication is rather
A lot of
strong
amount
in the
of
Catholic
things.
Church. The point is, Scientology has a moral and ethical code just like any other religion through the centuries. And that,
Except
right.
redefined the word ethics.
Priscilla, your concept of ethics and mine are probably vast parts, worlds apart.
Because they are worlds
They are.
apart.
Because, you quote a man named Jolly West as your guru, as your
No, I
patron
didn't.
saint. No, in your publications, he's put all the time, as is listed.
I am just one small little volunteer with cult awareness. Do not the cult awareness.
This is KFI AM 640. We have to take this break, and we will return with more after this. We have wonderful conversations like this all day long. That's why we're here.
Well, Priscilla, you keep saying you're just a poor housewife.
Priscilla, now where did that come from? Wait a second, Heber. Jane's the house. Yes, let's try to do this in an orderly fashion. We have.
By Jane, Priscilla says that she's just a simple little housewife, which means she admits that she is not a professional and knows nothing. Just to talk to people who have left religions all the time, she's not interviewed thousands of people who have found Scientology valuable.
But why would even a simple little housewife take on such a charge if it weren't something she believed were necessary?
Well, I think one has to look at the Cult Awareness Network rather closely, because that is a very secretive organization. They have these little secret phone numbers and addresses in Chicago or their national headquarters. And they also, their activity is very nefarious. The fact that they have supported Ted Patrick, and she talked about him. Listen, I have another arrest record here. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts on Ted Patrick. It says the First District Court of Eastern Middlesex, Holden at Malden, for the transaction of criminal business within the county of Middlesex. And what is he charged with? Did assault and beat Paul J. Pasquaros by means of a dangerous weapon, to which straight-edged razor. I think the fact that you find him a wonderful person and a great humanitarian, I disagree with you. I find that abusive, criminal, and that's why the man went to jail.
All right, I have a question
Probably
here.
L. Ron Hubbard is the great humanitarian.
Hold on just a moment. We have a question here from Art, who's calling from Los Angeles. Art, you're on KFI.
Yeah, this is towards Priscilla. I read an article that the Cult Awareness Network, one of the presidents, had to resign because he was criminally arrested for lewdness.
That's incorrect. Scientology did circulate an arrest record of the president of the Cult Awareness Network. He resigned because his father died the weekend that was mailed to people across the country. The pressure that he felt because of his father's death, because of the havoc that this type of a publication caused among his family and friends, he said, I have had enough. I cannot take the pressure, and I must resign.
Do you know that he had a criminal record?
I don't know whether he has a criminal record or not. I don't care a flying frig if he is a gay or if he is a lesbian or if he is a man or a woman. He was a competent individual, and I don't care what his sexual preference
Well,
is.
so there's a picture of him with his arrest right there, and there he is with his booking number, which is booking number
I have told you what happened.
1523.
This doesn't necessarily make him. I mean, because he has an arrest record. I don't know.
I have a
that
necessarily, yeah.
Well, that's different than soliciting lewdness, and it's very clear, which it says, according to the officer's statement, Rocco said, I want you to tie me up, put clothespins on my nipples, and
I
make
don't
me,
think we need
and we don't have to get into the
to
rest
go
of it.
into that. I'm all right. That shows what his ethics are.
No, it shows that your president was arrested and did not disclose it. And he, when it was found out, he
Those
quit.
things are
But you
not
support him.
important.
And, of course, you support him. You support him for that.
Individuals.
You
Is there no?
support his criminal activity.
Hold on, Heber. Is there no one in Scientology that has an arrest record?
A misdemeanor.
The president of her organization had
One in Scientology that has an arrest record?
We have been in members. Yes, I'll bet somebody had a record.
Like
What
Heber.
about the Scientology? Okay,
The
if you want
president of her organization, she never disclosed it, and she's supporting it. She's saying it's
To
great.
play this way, then let's talk about the high-level Scientologist who was just arrested in Edmonton, Canada,
Let's
for molesting a 10-year-old.
Good. Let's talk about him. Okay.
I mean, I think this is foolishness. I mean,
Okay.
we're talking about
Don't
Scientology.
slander yourself
We're
right now.
just trying to,
Honey.
Heber's trying to divert the question.
What I want you to both do is calm down for a minute.
I want to respond to that case.
I'd be happy to let you, but let me just say this. Attacking the president of this organization because he has an arrest record and loose conduct, all right, does not necessarily discredit his qualifications as someone who is interested in busting cults, all right? That's my opinion. That's how I feel. You may feel differently. Heber, you have something you want to say, please express it.
Well, I just think the moral image of this organization should be looked at. But this question she brought up about a person up in Edmonton, Canada, that was a fabrication. And that particular charge was brought against one of our members. That has been dropped by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police and by the people up there. And they indicated that it was a false statement. Now,
That's what happened in Rocco's too.
Hold on a
Charges
minute.
were dropped.
Hold on a minute. And the state is going to prosecute that individual for bringing that false accusation. And you people have been in communication with him. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll investigate that thoroughly. I hope you're not involved. That kind of stuff doesn't fly. You put yourself out as to be some sort of organization concerned about religion. Your intent is to destroy the First Amendment in this country, to destroy the rights of religion in America, and to destroy the spirit of America and the right of people to have religious beliefs. You won't make it with us because you know that we as an organization won't beat your victims. And that is a problem for you.
That we have to resort to that kind of.
I want to know, and you
It's true.
when you make this innuendo about Priscilla, and you say that you'll be investigating, do you regularly use private investigators to track information from the detractors?
Now, our attorneys have used investigators in legal cases.
No, our attorneys did.
And our attorneys are, all attorneys do use investigators. Priscilla, you're quite aware of that. It's a standard practice throughout America and in other countries. And our attorneys have used private investigators in the various cases which have come up to litigation. Yes, we have a right to defend ourselves, and we do defend ourselves through our attorneys and their right to hire private investigators, of course.
Have you been harassed, Priscilla?
Yes, I have. In fact, Heber mentioned before that we're such a secret organization. Well, we're such a secret organization, Jane, that 5 of their private investigators have found their way to my neighborhood and to my doorstep. And I find, that's really, that's not very secret
We are talking with the president of the Church of Scientology International, Heber Jentzsch, and also Priscilla Coates of the Cult Awareness Network until 11 o'clock tonight. And your telephone calls, we will get you on the air, I promise. Hang in there. This is Jane Norris on KFI. We're going to take one quick break. We will be back. Let's go to Alyssa, who is calling from Walnut.
Hold on for a second, Alyssa. We'll get right to you. There was the question here from Kenya. Wait, is this audio AI enhanced? Yes, it is AI enhanced, just because I had to clean up the audio since this was in the real video format, real media, from 1999. And I had to bring it up to speed here. But that sounds exactly like Heber and Priscilla. I don't think there's anything too wacky about it. This, I've seen this PBS mentioned earlier as well. This is a commercial station. KFI was the big talk station in LA. Great sound. Thank you. All right, let's go back here.
Alyssa, you're on KFI.
Hi, I'm 13 and my dad joined in Scientology and it completely disrupted our family. He went 5 times a week and he never had time for me or my brother. And he quit, but he had paid already $5,000 and they still send us mail every day.
Mm-hmm. And does your dad's not a part of the church anymore?
No, he's not.
Mm-hmm.
Is he still with your family?
No.
Like?
Because my mom divorced him because he spent so much time with them, with Scientology. And I would like to ask you, Hebrew, if he could get any of his money back.
I don't know the case, but all you have to do is, he knows what he can. You're saying he's not with your family and you want him to get his money back, but he's not with your mom?
No.
Is he still in Scientology?
No.
I see. Well, there are definite procedures that he wants to get his money back. We're probably the only church in the world that does that because, I'd like to say that I'd like to see the deprogrammers give money back to people who feel like they've been ripped off by the Cult Awareness Network. Listen, you're 13 years old. I can't tell you how to live your life. I can't tell you what decisions to make. I don't know exactly the circumstances with you and your father. But I can feel your concern, and I can say that if there was a problem there, well, it was up to your father and to your mother to have worked out their differences. And I understand the pain of something like that. All I can say is that if there's a concern, your father can write to the church, he can write to me, and I'll see that something is done about it.
Thanks for the call. Why is it so expensive to be a Scientologist?
I don't think it's expensive to be a Scientologist. People find that Scientology is valuable. They pay a lot of money to Scientology because it is valuable. And people don't pay money to things they don't think is valuable. That is the difference. I don't push away from the fact that people pay money to Scientology. I paid money to Scientology. I thought it was the greatest amount of, the greatest benefit that I'd ever gotten. It's this situation where you pay to get understanding. For me, I grew up in Utah, and my personal experience, no one's had a chance to tell their own personal story on this, and I'm going to tell you my personal story.
We have only about a minute before we go to a new one.
Well, the personal story simply is this, that I grew up in Utah. In Yucca Flats, the government decided to set off those atomic bombs and send radiation out all across the country, but they went across my little hometown of Farmington, Utah. Radiation fell on that town. I almost died from radiation burns when I was 15. The government never told us what was going on. And I had an incredible fatigue in this body. I almost died when I was 15. My friends are dead in Farmington, Utah because of that activity. I'm alive today because L. Ron Hubbard developed something called the Purification Rundown, which I did, and that handles drugs. But for me, it handled the problem of radiation. I'm alive because of it. And I'll tell you what, that works. And no matter what this woman or any other detractor comes to say, they cannot take away that particular fact, and they can't take it away from the millions of other people who have been helped, and all the rhetoric in the world won't change that.
We are talking about Scientology, and your telephone calls are welcome. You can join our telephone conversation by calling 1-800-553-4640 from any point in Southern California, locally from area codes 213 or 818. The number is 5201-KFI. When we return...
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to say that as to the question of did Scientology get their members to call, I think there was one other Scientologist who calls in this next section. But clearly, if they weren't clogging the lines, I don't think that they would have not put them on the air. I think they want controversy and some of this contentious talk back and forth.
We will talk with someone who was involved in Scientology and apparently pretty high up. Dennis Erlich will join us after the news at 10 o'clock, and we will continue our conversation about Scientology until 11 o'clock tonight here on KFI. This is KFI AM 640, more stimulating talk radio. I'm Jane Norris, here with you until midnight tonight, and happy to be so. And joining us now...
Heber does mention his 6-year-old son in this show. I don't know if it just happened and I was busy with other things and didn't hear it this time, or if he brings him up later, but it stuck out that he was talking about his kids, and had to mention the boy that did not make it past his early 20s.
On the air is Dennis Erlich.
Dennis Erlich.
And Dennis, you were once a member of Scientology.
Yes, I was. For 15 years.
Okay. And tell me about your experiences in the church.
Well, when I first contacted Scientology, it was 1968, and I was 19 years old. I walked in, and they took me on a tour, much like the tour that you took today.
Saturday.
That didn't even exist then.
Well, go ahead.
Am I going to be interrupted while I tell my story?
No, I hope not.
I appreciate
Give him an opportunity.
You've heard plenty from Heber, and
believe me, he'll have an opportunity to respond to what you say.
you'll hear some more.
That's the way it works, Dennis. Quite honestly, my stomach is churning from the fact that this is a line. His lines have been pumped into people's heads without any rebuttal for long enough. Scientology is a series of facades, and he is the outermost of those facades.
Explain what you mean.
Well, when I first came into Scientology, I was toured around, and I was told lots of claims were made for Scientology, that it was the road to total freedom, that it would do all of these things, that it would basically turn one into God. Or a God.
And you obviously felt that that was an acceptable thing for you for a time.
Well, you have to remember that I was 19 years old, I was naive, and at the time, like most people who become infatuated with this type of cult, I was undergoing some personal difficulties for which I was seeking solutions. And so the claim of these ultimate solutions, it was like having found water in a desert.
So you found some form of some saving grace. You felt Scientology was the answer for a time.
I felt that any group that would make such claims would have to be incredibly good or incredibly evil. And after having the tour and having this all explained to me, I made the statement that if Scientology is what it claims to be, then I should do everything I could possibly do to help it. But if it isn't, then I should do everything I could possibly do to destroy it.
How long were you involved?
15 years.
What made you stop?
Well, I found out that really it was just a criminal conspiracy.
Explain what you mean.
Well, lots of the activities of Scientology deal in deception of either individuals or governments. So, in that sense, it is a conspiracy.
How were you deceived?
I myself was deceived on the basis that this was a system of answers rather than a system of belief. Scientology claims that you don't have to believe anything, and yet you have to suspend your disbelief, otherwise you are being critical.
What was so hard for you to believe?
Well, there wasn't anything that was really hard for me to believe because it's presented on a gradient,
In
a
other
little
words,
bit at a time.
okay.
Ultimately, after 15 years of what I would say is very dedicated service to Scientology, working 9 in the morning till 10:30 midnight at night, 7 days a week for $17.50 an hour. I mean, $17.50 a week, excuse me.
$17.50.
A week. That's when we got paid at all. And that's standard pay in the Sea Org.
But you were taken care of as a member.
Taken care of in terms of how
Your housing and your food and okay.
Your medical and your clothes and so forth.
How much did you donate to the Church of Scientology?
15 of my years. And in terms of money, probably $1,700, maybe 3,000 at most. But I was on staff. So as far as how I was deceived, Scientology claims to be a system by which you can achieve certain things. And those things are only achieved in one's own mind. Those things are only a result of one's own belief system.
So your success in life is gauged by how much you know about Scientology and how far you have come along the path?
Exactly.
Okay.
And within that framework, you can achieve status. But within society as a whole, you're segregated from society by the belief system itself.
So you really don't get to when you're involved in the Church of Scientology, employed by, how much interaction do you get with the rest of the planet?
Well, really, what it amounts to is the average staff member only does Scientology and has a short time off. The deceptive part of it is that Scientology really deals with exorcism, and that is what the basis of it is. Hubbard talked about that in the most advanced tapes that he gave on L12, that exorcism is what you're dealing with.
All at about 7 minutes. Can I talk sometime here?
Absolutely.
Is that about that?
Give him another minute
Heber.
here until we get through this exorcism thing.
Right.
Wow.
Exorcism?
Exorcism, that's the basis of Scientology. And a person doesn't find that out until he spent tens of thousands of dollars, that's what he is being prepared for.
What are we exercising?
Well, you're exercising. Yeah, let me.
Well,
who are supposed
hold on a second. Minutes, and is sitting there going.
Well, we're just getting to the good part here. Now, hold.
The good part. Now, really, it's
Finish.
what needs to be.
Wait a
This is exactly what what do you want?
Okay, you're going to cut it off. Well,
I want to ask you to cooperate with me and let him
Please
finish.
let me finish what I'm saying. This is what is deceptive about this cult. The fact, however, is that it deals with exorcism. Look, the cult from beginning to end deals with exorcism. Cult, and it is a cult, and I've been inside that cult, and I know that it is a cult.
you know what it is.
There's mind control that goes on because I was in charge of quality control at their Florida land base.
Well, that's
and on the
my position. At every single church in the world.
I would Hubbard himself.
Oh, hold on a moment.
No, wait a minute. You said 13 minutes here, and I just wish. Looking at the clock up there, and
The line. You hold.
I've been in Scientology 24 years, and that's a lot longer than he is. Now, he indicates that he was in for 15 years. Obviously, he chose to leave. And Mr. Erlich, I think you realize that when you were in Scientology, that we were opposed to a number of things. We were also opposed to psychiatry. I don't believe you support it. I don't believe that you as an individual can look. Here's the point: we can put all kinds of people on here. Then it's scissor.
Perception.
If we discuss,
Let's discuss these beliefs that are not, that you have to pay thousands and thousands of dollars to find out about.
No, this is absolutely, his fabrication of what Scientology is.
That is what it is, and you can't deny it.
well, listen, I watched a show the other night with Father Labar on ABC.
Some other garbage. Let's talk about the exorcism.
Hold on. Let's talk about you as an individual and the destructiveness that you have aimed at a religion because you're no longer a part of it.
It's nothing to do with that. Has nothing to do with that at all.
It has everything to do
No,
with
it doesn't. It has to do with the deception that goes on. It has to do with the facades that you put on.
Nobody is getting their voice across.
You have a right to talk because I spent 15 years of my life, the best years of my life,
I spent
deceiving people on behalf of you and your organization.
I think it was very clear in his early statement. He said he thought it was, he either joined it because it was the greatest good or he felt it was the greatest evil and he would attack it.
And it is the greatest evil. It's like a Nazi party in America.
No,
All right, gentlemen,
That's going to cost me. Go ahead, do something. That's my opinion, and I have a right to it.
got to stop here. We're going to take a break on KFI AM 640. More stimulating talk radio. Our conversation about Scientology continues. Heber Jentzsch, president of the Church of Scientology, along with Dennis Erlich, former Scientologist. We got into a pretty good argument about exorcism.
And about Nazis, and he's talking about Nazis, and I want to handle that because that particular allegation, he knows very well. Yeah, okay. He knows very well that the Church of Scientology has dealt very strongly with this issue. He also knows...
I also know that it's a fascist organization. Period. And you have a right to that opinion because I know the fascist nature of it. I know that people on the outside, like Travolta, don't know what's going on inside of it. Like Kirstie Alley, they live in they're waltzed around. They're waltzed around. They're outside by people like you who show us front, but they don't know what goes on the inside. They don't know about these RPFers who are locked up. They don't know about a lot of things that go on the inside. Dennis, nothing. She bring a problem. When are you going to stop? When are you going to stop locking people up? Who's going to stop these things?
Dennis, you're just having a real problem here. Now, let's just...
I'm having a real problem, yeah. I am having a real problem listening to the garbage that you're putting out.
I understand, Dennis. Now, listen, the problem that you're having here...
I'm having a problem with that you lie, and it doesn't care. It doesn't even make a difference to you that you lie.
Dennis, you're sounding a little bit wild here. Let's just calm down.
When are you going to stop the RPF? How many people are in the RPF now?
Calm down. Dennis, listen. Dennis, I'm not talking to Dennis, but I'm going to get this one particular thing figured about the Nazis.
First of all, our organization has exposed the fact a number of Nazi individuals involved in various organizations running drugs into this country.
Yeah,
and right now, you bet your life, and the national president of the National Association of the Chiefs of Police has really endorsed our information because we have exposed those particular Nazi elements. And, Priscilla may remember Margaret Singer is quoted as one of the key people about various religions and so forth. Margaret Singer was, along with the patron saint of Cannes, Mr. Lifton, attending a conference in 1978. And here's what Cannes gets terribly terrified about. We exposed the fact that those people were attending the German Union of Child Psychiatry.
Come on, get back to Scientology.
No, let's finish it up here. We're talking about us because we are doing social reform areas. And in that particular conference, Singer was there. It was sponsored by the German Union of Child Psychiatry and by one of these front groups for deprogramming. The German Union of Child Psychiatry had several interesting members, including Hildegard Hetzer, who ordered 25,000 children to their deaths. You see, out of that conference, in the concentration camps, and out of that conference, if you're asleep, Priscilla, why don't you just, lay over on the side, folks? She's falling asleep. The point was that we brought up that information, and Singer, was involved in it. I think the fact that we have exposed Nazis is a terrifying thing to these people.
Are you claiming that Dennis is a Nazi?
No, Dennis claimed that. Dennis claimed that. I didn't claim that.
I claim that your organization is as fascist as the Nazis were and as dangerous as the Nazis were before they came to power. And I want to see to it that there never is a world that is ruled by ethics officers and the Sea Org, because if there is, it'll be just as fascist as Hitler would have made it. Thank you.
Let's take a telephone call before we
People know
continue.
me well enough to know that I have done more on that issue. People know, Dennis, I have done more to handle that than you ever have.
All right.
And I'll tell you what, here's the law enforcement news on Cannes saying, you people are really, something should be checked out about you.
About Scientology, not CAN.
We're talking about both. You're here. You put your organization on the line.
I'm not a part of CAN. I'm just an individual who got raped spiritually by Scientology. And there are plenty of others who have been raped too.
The physical rape by members of CAN, and you can talk about spiritual rape, which is a rather subjective concept.
It is. It's a very subjective concept.
I think the spiritual rape of man is done by psychiatry, and you know that. And you know that I oppose that kind of rape because we've exposed it.
All right, let's go with telephone call here. Let's go to Jean, who is calling from Hacienda Heights. Jean, you're on KFI. Hi.
What a battle, huh? Here you are, Jean.
Well, I'm not a former member of Scientology, but my mother was. And she spent about 9 years in the organization. And after they milked her for just about every cent they could, she finally came to her senses and left. And
good for her.
We're very, very pleased. Yes, we really are. She was working, and my father had just died, and she had a home paid for. And they came in there and managed to coerce her to take out a loan for the full amount, or for whatever amount that she could get it for. And they also signed her up for a bunch of classes that she never took, and they have never yet paid her back the money.
Fine.
That is a try then right in your mind back.
Wait a minute. If that's true, write me.
She has written, and this is a very interesting thing. Scientology does not accept any kind of certified mail. However, they do deliver certified mail.
Well, write to me. I'm telling you, if there's a problem there, write to me.
Do you accept certified mail, Heber?
I don't have to accept a certified mail. Send me a regular letter. What's your problem,
Oh,
because it's proof.
She's been a legal secretary for many years, so her letters were checked, and they went to all the right people, and she got all kinds of letters back. She now has an attorney handling it because that was the only way to get in.
Look, I told... Fine. Listen, I tell you, if there's a problem, you can write to me, and I appreciate that.
Did you see the Time Magazine article from May 6th?
A magazine article, ma'am.
Time Magazine?
Yes, she is.
Her mom is in the Time Magazine article. Why is it that I keep hearing these stories over and over again? These are unsolicited calls. These are people calling in. Heber, why do we hear the same story over and over again? There lots of money involved, and once they leave the church, they can't seem to get a refund.
I mean, this is everybody who had 3 calls in the last hour and a half. Well, I don't think the 3 calls is exemplary of the whole thing. I know that I have a number of friends out there who are Scientologists because I've lived here in Los Angeles. I don't know whether those lines are available to them or whether your screener's keeping them out. I've had that happen on shows before, and you laughed, Dennis.
Yeah, the great conspiracy theory that we've heard for so long. The government is conspiring against you, and everybody against Scientology. The reason the government is against you is because you're an illegal organization that engages in illegal.
If we're an illegal organization, we wouldn't be here, and you know.
That's right, and for
Scientology has stood up against the Internal Revenue Service for years, and we've won against them. We've won against other countries.
You haven't won anything.
We have won in every single vector because countries have come up against us. No group has taken on the IRS like we have, and we have won against the Internal Revenue Service, and we'll continue to win against.
I know. You
guys are throw the government.
That's what you're trying to do.
We're helping the government because we're solving the problems they have with drugs. And I'll tell you what, you can love the Internal Revenue
problem that they have with drugs,
criminal acts. And are you on drugs right now?
God, that's a accusation. You used to be right. Very lucid. He looks very lucid to me, or fine.
Maybe we should go to another call.
Let's go to Jan, who's calling from Los Angeles. Jan, you're on KFI. I think that's an unfair question.
Well, I thought this call screener was biasing all these calls here. Every call's an anti-Scientology so far. I don't think it's really very fair.
Well, you're on the air, aren't you?
Well, yeah.
Well, speak up.
I have a couple questions.
Well, spit out.
Very good thing with your drug program. And I would like to ask Heber, what is it like to be clear?
Well, I'll tell you what it's like to be clear. It's the first time to come walking out, and look at the world for the first time and feel like there is a wonderful world out there, that there are a great number of people out there who are wonderful people. And I have gained a great number of friends because of that. And I'll tell you, it's a feeling of looking to the future and knowing that I will go on as a spiritual being, that I will live throughout eternity. That's what it's like, and feeling that it's a growing thing, an ascending thing, that there is life, that there is going to be a future, that there is going to be a created light of life and happiness and healthiness. That's what I feel like it's like for me. And I'm glad somebody asked me that question. It's the first time I've been asked to have on this radio show.
Also, she wanted to know about your drug program.
The drug rehabilitation programs, Scientology has sponsored Narconon, which is a very successful drug rehabilitation program, which is, by the way, supported by various governments in Sweden, in Norway. It is also supported that way in Italy, and it is supported now in Spain and so forth. We have taken tens of thousands of people off of drugs, by the way, who are not necessarily members of the church. It's just, I have met with women whose sons' lives were destroyed because they were on drugs. We have taken them off of drugs. We have the most effective drug rehabilitation programs in the world. And we are now working in Chilocco, Oklahoma, with the Native Americans to help them come off of drugs where they have endemic situations out there. Now, I tell you what, all of this noise, all of this attack, all of this noise is because we are effective. We take people off of drugs. Who gets hurt by 100,000 people coming off of drugs? Who gets hurt by a man who comes off of cocaine and heroin, who's making 5 robberies a day to pay for that habit, and then increasing the police protection and increasing all the other stuff that has to go on in the neighborhood? Who is hurt by that? Only the people who are hurt are the people who are pro-drugs. The only people who are hurt who want to keep people in that particular situation. I will tell you, Scientology has tremendous programs. I have affidavit after affidavit, success stories by the millions of people who have been helped by Scientology. All of this rhetoric, all of this
rhetoric,
all of this rhetoric from my opposition here will not change the fact that Scientology is the road to total freedom. It will not change the fact that people are living happier lives. Yes, we're attacked. I think all great religions were attacked. It hasn't been as bad as the Christians. They killed them. They threw them to the lions, Those people had a horrible time. And they were, burned at the stake and nailed to the cross.
Hubbard with Jesus. Please.
I would never compare him to Jesus. And
tell me,
I think that's horrible that you brought that up, and he would be appalled because he never wanted to be put in that position.
Tell me, Dennis,
who says that?
Are these programs helping people?
No, they aren't. They've created dependency that is worse than the dependency on drugs. They created dependency on Scientology. And the dependency on Scientology is a dependency that is really harder to break than a plain addiction to drugs.
Who said that?
I just said it. Didn't you hear me?
I originally heard it from Jolly West, but
I just said it because I know. I ran the program at Flag. I know that it creates a dependency. The purification rundown has no basis in scientific fact. They have yet to tell what's any. Wait. No, hey, I was asked a question. I was asked a question. Are you going to permit me to answer the question?
Yes.
Please answer.
Okay. The fact of the matter is that none of the programs, neither the purification rundown nor any other quote therapy of Scientology, has ever been demonstrated to work by the scientific method, and that's why. That's why it's all anecdotal. It's all anecdotal evidence, and the fact is that it's never been documented that any of this stuff works at all, except as a placebo cure.
Now, these drug cures that you're talking about, are they done documentation?
Hold on.
Are they done in your community only, or are they done in the general public? How does it work?
They are done in both places. And wait a minute,
we're done in a closed environment. Don't Dennis me. I have something to say here too. We've listened to you.
Dennis,
now let me talk.
No. You just made some charges, both of you. Of course, now I've been around the world and met with the people in those programs, which are, by the way, supported by governments. What you have found is that in those programs, by the way, you've been gone for 10 or 15 years. I don't know how long, but there have been scientific studies done to show that
they've been done by their people.
No, they've been done by other people who are not Scientologists.
By phase, which is the Scientology organization.
Wait a minute. Scientific.
And
simply niacin,
Priscilla.
vitamins, sauna,
Priscilla.
oil, and a wee bit of exercise. That's it is.
You know, you don't want anyone coming off a drug, do you?
But it doesn't
You don't do any for drugs, and that's an absurd charge. You are for drugs. You are for drug slavery, and that is exactly. You want to destroy. You want to destroy this dirt. You want to destroy anything which works. Now, I will make sense. The point is, I want to come back to this.
I would love to come back to this after this break. This is KFI AM 640. We are in studio with Heber Jentzsch, president of the Church of Scientology International, Priscilla Coates, who is a member of the Cult Awareness Network, and also Dennis Erlich, a former Scientologist. And Heber, you were continuing the conversation.
You talk about something being scientific. If somebody gets up there on a hill and they make something called a wheel, no one's seen it before, and they say, look, this thing rolls, and it goes down a hill, and it rolls round and round, it's called a wheel. That can be proof that it works. When you take the fact that there are hundreds, like 100,000 or more people who've come off of drugs. And those people are off of drugs very effectively because you see,
there's got 100,000 members. So where are these 100,000 people who have come off drugs?
That's kind of interesting, you know. We have 8 million members. The Boston Globe said if there's only 50,000 members, how come how come that there's so much attack on the Church of Scientology? You wouldn't care about it.
Because of the number of lawyers you have, not the number of members.
And the way that you spend your money attacking, and the private investigators you hire.
And they're effective, and that's why we're still alive.
I have a bunch of questions.
There are a lot of people who are making benefit from the use of that drug rehabilitation technology.
There are 40 in Oklahoma, 40 patients.
At a
that
time.
That doesn't matter to very many.
At a time. And I talked to...
Because the reports only allow that many.
I talked to hundreds, I talked to hundreds over there
in Spain?
Yes, in Spain.
Weren't you arrested in Spain recently?
Oh, I was there 2 years ago. Were you involved in that?
I'm asking if you were arrested and for what? Well, not a question. Did you get an answer to that?
I was arrested in Spain. They let it go and they let me go, okay?
For what?
Well, let's just go back to...
No, it was referred to a higher court.
What was the charge?
The Scientologist was the charge because they wasn't a charge. They didn't have a warrant with my name on it. They arrested a whole bunch of people. They arrested people for being Scientologists. They said anyone who was a foreigner. So to your conspiracy, there was there. Mr. Sarzaris. I was there, and I spoke with these people who had come out of those mountains, who had been treated and who had used Narcanon and come off of drugs when all of the programs over there failed. The psychiatrists were giving them more drugs, and they were claiming a 2 to 3% success rate, charging $30,000 to do it, and the people were going back onto drugs. We had a success rate independent study sociologically done over there, which was done by the government, 72% to 78% success rate. Well, that is, you know, whatever you guys want, you are for it. You are signed to destroy any drug program.
Heber, give Dennis a chance to respond.
Dennis, you want drugs. Do you want people off drugs?
Well, that's totally absurd.
Do you want them off of drugs? Prozac is in there. It's a killer. It is a
I'm going to
drug.
Cut your microphone off if you don't give him a chance to respond.
He won't let out drugs.
I have a list of questions from former members. I run a group of former members, sort of an encounter group of former members.
First, answer my question. What was the charge in Spain?
I'm not even sure.
You weren't even there.
I'm not
Falsification of records, coercion, capital flight. They called it a pure and simple charlatanism.
All right. You have. I will allow you to ask
the judge said,
one question. Pick your best shot.
There was no
Told him his mother was dying, Heber. You made up another story.
Listen to this.
That you talk on our truth, right? You talk about my mother that way. That tells me exactly what you're like. You talk about my mother that way, and you say that you love these people. You talk about my mother that way. I am angry about that because my mother was dying, and my mother is very ill and has been for some time. You talk about that. That's the kind of person you are. I have no support for you. I am angry about that. And you, Dennis, if you join with that, that's the kind of thing you people support. That is absolutely unconscionable. You talk about my mother that way, Priscilla. How do you feel about people?
Dennis, ask your question.
No,
Hold on, Heber. Let him ask.
Do you think this is okay? You're the moderator. You think that's okay?
Heber, you have been dominating this conversation since you walked into this studio.
But do you think it's okay?
I think that you ought to calm down and give them a chance to respond.
I don't like that being said about my mother. She said that. Do you think it's okay?
You're turning this into a major issue. I'm
Furious about that.
should
Been up about it. It's my mother. He takes control
I think what you do is take an issue and turn it into something if it's something you don't want to answer, you will not answer, and you create an issue.
Every American out there who thinks it's okay to say that about somebody's mother, fine. Join these people. I don't think you do.
Can I ask my question?
Please ask your question.
This question is directed from a group of ex-Scientologists, and it's a sincere question. We went through hours and hours and hours of confessionals, and all of our, quote, sins are written down in folders. And some people have stacks of folders like 10 feet tall. We would like our folders back from these people because they can use it against us.
That's your best question.
And that's when will our confessional folders be returned to us, and how?
Heber.
Send in your request. I mean, I don't know what he's talking about.
Well, he doesn't know what he's talking about.
I'll tell you what we'll do. No, I'll tell you what we'll do, Dennis.
Send in my request.
No, send in your request. You come with us, and we will shred them in front of you. No, wait a minute. That's his best question. And you think that you think that that's bad? I'll tell you what, we shred your folder in front of you.
That's a concern of ex-members.
What's in your folder?
Everything, every thought, every action.
Exactly. Everything that I've ever confessed in Scientology, 15 years of confessionals, and the ex-members have requested for years and years that their PC folders they're called PC folders, be returned to them, and they have not been able to get this done.
Those folders have been shredded in the past. I mean, of course, what it means is, for all time and eternity, you're not in Scientology, and that's fine.
That's fine with me.
Well,
that is definitely fine with me.
But anyway, I think that
that's a concern of a lot of people. That's why I ask it as, quote, my best question.
All right,
I have plenty of other questions.
Let's go to a telephone call. Dan has a question from Sherman Oaks. Dan, you're on KFI.
Yeah, I have a friend who, his wife has been going through Scientology. She's from a foreign country. She's been in this country about 2 years, and she a dramatic change in her, I think, is not for the better. Suddenly she starts talking about all the courses she wants to take and how that's the only thing she wants money for. She's starting to work another job to get the extra money for this. Anyone who says anything critical about Scientology, be it Time Magazine, the LA Times, those are liars, etc., will not brook any sort of, inquisitive criticism. And it's amazing to see this change. This is a very sweet, nice person.
Okay.
Why would it for it? Is she for you? I'm certain of that. She mean the Scientology systematically destroys a person's ability to question or think critically about things. The reason that is that you have to suspend your criticism and go through the processes of Scientology to see that they work. In other words, that's actually part of what you have to do. You have to suspend your criticism in order to go through the auditing or the training that they give you. And it all induces a mild state of hypnosis, which over years can add up to a walking hypnosis.
Heber, what's happening? Why is she disassociating from her family and friends?
Well, are you still on the line, caller?
Yeah, caller's still there.
You still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
So are you saying that she's being very vicious to you and attacking you and so forth? Is she...
If you raise the issue of something being wrong in Scientology, I asked her about the Time Magazine article immediately. Was, do you believe everything that the Time print? I said, well, gee, I've read stuff in her book. Do you believe everything that is printed in the LA Times?
No, I don't. No, I don't believe everything in Time Magazine.
I mean, that is the line. That's the line that they're fed.
Hold on.
But you use these little make things totally off the subject.
Exactly.
I'll go right to the subject of Time Magazine. Let's go to the...
Talk about your mother in a reasonable
position? No, my mother was not... yeah, I blew a fuse because I don't like people talking about my mother that way.
And make you use tonight because
radiation sickness. I'll bet you have documentation.
You bet your life I do.
You're a liar and a cheat. Nat, I'll get off the line and listen to his tirade afterward.
I don't think it deserves a response because I talked to somebody who's intelligent. I think it's very clear that there is a concern about the fact in that Time magazine article that we are exposing drugs, and we are exposing the fact that these kinds of drugs like this killer drug Prozac is taking people's lives, and there's somebody who's concerned about it. I don't know why there is so much concern, but I'll tell you what, I'm supported by a lot of media, and I saw Dan Rather hit it real hard a week ago, and I've seen it on Donahue, I've seen it on a number of national TV shows exposing this killer drug. It's taking people's lives.
Your program was in your program was in the Wall Street Journal. Exactly what your agenda is with regard to drug companies.
She is orchestrating the campaign against your lawyers.
We are showing that. You know what happened? They lost $1.1 billion in about 2 weeks after they put that article on the Wall Street Journal. You know why? Because people knew it was phony. They knew it was destructive. No one's going to take a drug. And that company, Eli Lilly, was producing Oriflex before that. The Food and Drug Administration took it off because it was killing people. Well, they're putting out another one that's killing people. And I'll tell you what, Dennis, we're going to continue to go after it because we don't believe that kind of drug should be on the market and that it causes people to commit violence. We're going to continue. Yes, their hands raised.
AFI AM 640. We will continue our conversation about Scientology after this break on KFI. I want to get your telephone calls on the air. I know we haven't had much of an opportunity to do that, but please hang in there with me and we will get you on the line. Elena is calling from Sylmar. Elena, you're on KFI.
Hello, I am 12 years old and I'm calling on my own will. And I am a Scientologist. I want to say how good it is and how much it has helped our family and my parents.
How long have you been a member, Elena?
All my life.
Mm-hmm. Were your parents Scientologists and then you were born and they indoctrinated you, or you became involved also?
Yes, they've been involved for over 15 years.
And do your parents live with the church too?
Yeah.
Okay. So you live and you're a member of the church and you do everyday activities. How are your playmates? Do you play with other Scientology kids, or do you get to play with other people too?
I don't mind any religion. We are not prejudiced of any religion.
No, I'm asking you, do you stay inside the church pretty much, or do you get to go to school with other kids? How does it work?
I get to go to school with whoever I want, and I can be with whoever I want.
Where do you go to school?
Well, currently I am homeschooling. My school that I will be going to and one that I have previously been to is both Scientology schools.
Okay, so you've really never been in public school?
Oh, I have not been in a public school, but I have been in private schools. They are not Scientology schools.
Mm-hmm. You sound very intelligent. You're obviously not lacking for education. Is this a common practice, Heber? Do kids that are born into Scientology, do they pretty much say exclusive to the group, or do they?
No. There's, with all the membership we have internationally, people go to regular schools, and there are other schools that which use study technology, which is very effective. Mr. Hubbard's developed an incredible technology for study, and there are a number of schools springing up all over the world in which are using those technologies. In fact, 2.5 million native Africans have studied and used study technology in South Africa. So this is something. And by the way, he sounds very...
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Elena.
Elena sounds very intelligent.
She is, she does.
And she's 12 years old, and her parents are Scientologists, and I think she has a right to her religion.
I agree.
I think she has a right to live it and to do as she wishes. Homeschooling, by the way, is not just a concept with Scientologists. I want you to know that there are a lot of Christian groups that have homeschooling, and they're very effective, by the way. I've seen studies on it, Christian schools, where their IQs are higher, where their morals are much higher, and there's much, much less drugs on their campuses or in their homes, obviously, and their lives are drug-free. I think it's a great idea.
You have a comment?
Yes, I do. I have 4 daughters, and they were all raised in Scientology, and their education was atrocious based on Scientology. Their contacts with the outside world were minimal, and when they finally did make contact with the outside world, they had about 2 or 3 years of catch-up to do. That's all of them.
Well, it makes you a poor father. My daughter is doing great. My kid is doing great. My daughter is 5 years old. She reads way ahead of her time. And my boy is 6, and he's reading way ahead of his time. And because I spent the time with them and I used the technology L. Ron Hubbard has of study with them. And I'll tell you what, there's nothing wrong with helping people learning how to study, especially when we've got such a high illiteracy rate in this country. And we have an extremely high dropout rate in this school system in this country. People who can't even read a menu, people who can't even read a bus card.
The big secret of the study tech is looking up words.
What is that?
Good.
Looking up words in the dictionary. Well, I dare say we all think that's a fairly good technique. It's a good idea. Nothing secret or magical about it.
Hubbard certainly didn't invent it. Well,
Kids to read, I got to applaud that because they don't.
in any case, the schools are failing in that respect, and Mr. Hubbard has helped an awful lot of people do that, and we're continuing to do it. We're very successful at it.
Let's take another call. We'll go to Roxanne. He's
Sure.
calling from Chatsworth. Roxanne, you're on KFI. Hello.
Hello, Roxanne.
She probably fell asleep at the wheel here. Let's go to John, who's calling from San Diego. John, you're on KFI.
Hi, John.
I have one question only, and I'd like a straight answer to it.
Okay.
I'd like someone to describe the process of exorcism. Dennis really never finished.
Yeah, I would like to talk about that.
Well, you can pick it up in Dianetics, Modern Science of Mental Health, and what it does, it deals with the mental image pictures that a person has, and it can deal with a person's past, going back into his past.
It's got nothing to do with that.
Well, it does have everything to do with it, and you know that. The Dianetics, Modern...
You want an answer, or do you want to hear what the problem had the front board?
Dianetics, Modern Science of Mental Health laws an answer to that, and Dennis knows that the Dianetics has the answer to it.
He's blocking.
I'm not blocking that. You know, you're sitting... I would like to answer, but...
Well, this is the second time it's come up, and neither time have we gotten an answer.
Here to discuss... I'm not here to discuss the religion of
He won't stop talking.
Dennis,
That's the thing. You won't stop to let me.
Dennis, you know,
This is the technique that he drills before he comes on Dennis, come on, you know, an interview like that. I know.
Well, why don't you let him answer?
Yeah,
40 years, which I said that Dianetics,
Scheme clip.
Modern Science of Mental Health,
okay, now I can answer. It's great. That's great. Thank you very much. The exorcism process, Hubbard describes that the individual has ended up, over the process of millions and millions of years, plagued by thousands and thousands of entities besides himself that are occupying his body. These entities speak to him and give him messages which are his reactive mind, they call it. Which
well, she thought my microphone. Easy. Me? You bitch. You.
Don't want to stop. You're gonna
Okay, I
start a
have to
fight,
fix
but if
this
you put your
sound.
hands around, I don't care if you are. You call yourself a lady, you know. You better watch it, Priscilla.
Look at this take.
Wasn't it the first time? Your phone's come. My phone is thing went off, and I'm standing here next to Dennis Stock.
Kind of thing.
Well, because I feel that
No, he doesn't want me to answer. He definitely doesn't.
I tell you what.
He definitely doesn't want me to answer. And this is a serious thing to him that I'm talking about exorcism.
you know
About that, what Scientology is actually about.
So you think
That's exactly what Scientology is about. Anyway,
drugs, don't you, Dennis?
the exorcism process.
You love drugs, don't you? You love drugs. And you hate us because we take people off of drugs. Are you on drugs, right? This is Dennis. This is Dennis. What are you on? What are you on, Dennis?
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a break here on KFI.
All right. So they were ushered out of the studio, and then there was phone calls from the audience. And unfortunately, whoever recorded this did not record that last hour. But lots of fascinating stuff there. And I really need to fix up that audio at the end because there's all this crosstalk. I think there's more stuff there to uncover. But I hope you enjoyed that. That's Heber at his most Heberish. Certainly went up against a worthy opponent with Dennis there. And you can see that, you know, Heber was not at all happy that there was somebody there who knew anything about Scientology and was not afraid of spilling it, as Dreamscape is saying here. All right. Kristen loved it. AT Chick. I think we heard most of it. Yeah. I have to, I got work to do. I got to fix the spelling of his name and do what I can about the audio. But I'm glad that you spent the time here enjoying this show. I've got dozens more that I will get converted and put back online. I missed having these radio shows for years. I have not been able to locate these. So I'm glad, and I knew this one had to be the first one to come out. So I'm glad we got this up and running. Hey, and before you go, let me see if I can share this trailer because, I enjoyed, there we go. I enjoyed this movie, Faults. And I watched it because Mary Elizabeth Winstead is the female lead in it. And I really started to appreciate her around this time when she was in the that sequel to 10 Cloverfield Lane, I think was the name of it, a sequel to Cloverfield. She was the woman trapped in John Goodman's basement with somebody else. And I thought she was fantastic in that. And then she did a TV series for 1 year that I love called Brain Dead. I don't know if you ever saw it. Hunt it down if you can. It was during the election between Trump and Hillary. And that is all playing in the background as this alien invasion of space ants are crawling into politicians' ears and controlling them and creating a lot of the nonsense and friction. Very good show. It's this stupid idea for a show, but it was incredibly well done. Let's take a quick look at this trailer, if you don't mind.
This is the most basic freedom. I'm talking about free will, choice. Who are you? I am Ansel Roth, one of the world's foremost authorities on mind control and cult organizations.
I hope you die. And I hope I broke one of your ribs.
Our daughter is not well. She's someone else. She told me that she had found God, that she had made love to it. I don't want to lose my daughter, Mr. Roth.
Are you familiar with deprogramming? We would forcibly take your daughter away from the group. Far away. She would not know where she was. But more importantly, where no one else would be able to find her. I would begin the process of breaking her down. You have to ask yourselves, how far am I willing to go? What's going on inside your head right now?
I'm thinking about how I want to rip your tongue out of your throat so you'll shut up.
I'm probably going to move back a little right now. 5 days.
5 days.
That's it.
Good morning. You realize there's no hiding from them.
How did you know where I was?
Give me my darn money, Ansel. Because I'm sick to death of asking.
Do you trust me?
What is happening to me?
I've moved up a level, Ansel. I'm changing.
Fault is a fracture. It's a place where pressure builds until it releases. One day, I will be a mountain. Do you feel any sense of responsibility?
Well,
Didn't take long,
okay.
but the monsters have breached the wall.
There we go. That's that we didn't need. Stay. It's not hard to watch. It's a strange, odd duck though, because the opening scene when he's sitting there with the parents in a diner and they're talking about, well, do you want to do this deprogramming? That's very funny. But then there are really dark places it goes to as well. But I mean, if you're interested at all in a good, not perfect, but a good film about deprogrammers. This is well worth checking out. Anyway, I think that's about it. I think it's time to wrap up, unless there's other things that you want to talk about still. And I appreciate Kelly reminding me that don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell. And if you feel like going to one of those links that would send me a little cash, that would be handy right now. So PayPal, and the other ones that are up there, I don't remember. Cash App and Venmo, right? Okay. You have a terrific night, folks. Let's get those links up there. Thank you. Support the channel. And I will have something more for you tomorrow night. I promise. I've been putting together things and having them sitting in the background, waiting for the right time to broadcast them. Thank you, everyone, and you have a wonderful night. See you again soon. Bye.
What are your crimes, Mark? Yes, what are your crimes, Mark? Your crimes are hidden, they should be seen. Spit all out, Mark, and just come clean.